Hey there, my name is Shane Craddock, and this is the Inner Edge podcast, where I share a different take on how to lead and live a sustainable, high-performance life. Over the course of different episodes, I'm going to challenge the belief that tension, stress, and struggle are essential to success and creativity. My experience is that there's an easier way, there's a better way, and indeed there's an essential way that we need to explore for the times that we live in. So let's go ahead, let's jump in and explore. Hey there, Shane here. Welcome. Just in case you're new to these podcasts, just to make you aware that I also send out a little weekly email based on my book called Inspire Me. And it goes out every Monday morning. You can read it in less than 60 seconds. And it's designed to give you a little bit of inspiration for the week ahead. It's been going about, at this point, 15 years. Never would have thought that. Anyway, you can get more details in the show notes if you're interested. You can go to my homepage, shanecraddock.com with one D, and you can check it out and opt in if you wish. Today's episode has been inspired by a walk that I took during the week. I live in a place called Wicklow, very close to Wicklow town, County Wicklow. It's on the east coast of Ireland. It's just below the capital, Dublin, and it's a beautiful area. We're very lucky here. We've got hills, and we're very close to the sea. But I was taking a walk by the sea in a place called the Murrow, and I couldn't get over the natural erosion that had accelerated over the last 2 weeks, to the point that what used to be quite a large path is now maybe only 2-3 feet wide in certain parts. And there's a problem because maybe 20 feet away is a railway line. And so it's going to present all sorts of issues, but it's a very popular walking area. I use it myself quite often, but lots and lots of people do. A local who's been here their entire life told me recently that it used to be an area where they had horse races, I think point-to-point horse races, and so it used to be quite wide. And over the years, it's obviously been hugely eroded. And I know maybe 3 or 4 years ago, there was another area of that walk where the erosion kicked in, just like it's kicking in now, and the local council eventually, it seemed to take forever, but eventually they came in and did some repair work. They put down rocks to try and combat the erosion, which they did in that area. But what you saw then as a result is the effect of the erosion kind of just moved up the beach. So whatever way the waves and the wind, whatever problems they were causing, they just move up the beach. But what's been interesting to watch even over the last couple of years is that the erosion at times it would seem like it would kind of almost stop. But then, just like, say, in the last 2 weeks, it's accelerated in one area. Why? It seems because the wind gets an angle on maybe a sharp edge, and it just goes in and it attacks it. And as I've been thinking about it over this week, I just realized, oh yeah, well, that's outer erosion. It's a natural thing. It's a natural phenomenon. It happens in many different ways all the time. But there's also something for us to consider as people as an inner erosion. There's definitely an outer erosion on my skin as I'm aging. I can see that. But there's an inner erosion that I think is more important as a human being. And that's kind of what I want to explore a little bit today. And as I said, erosion seems to be a natural phenomenon. And if you take, say, a human being, well, look, our bodies eventually erode. They'll eventually erode down to dust, I guess, go back to where they came from, into nature. But there's also this inner erosion. Now, I'm going to pick a couple of angles on this just because of the time restriction. But if you think about confidence, I mean, I know myself, having worked with people who who used to be very confident and then perhaps maybe lost to some degree. And that's a version of erosion, inner erosion to me. And that might be a loss of self-belief. And maybe for whatever reason in their head, when I was younger, I could do this, this, and this. And as I've gotten older, there's reasons why I've lost my confidence and da. And that's all fine. But that doesn't have to be the way. And I think that is inner erosion. And if you're not careful, just like the path, a little dent or a little sharpness that our own inner nature can very often, if we're not careful, can erode ourselves quicker and more dangerously. And I suppose if I go back to the shape of that land in the Murrow, like nature is just doing what it does. It blows wind, it bangs waves, it does whatever. It's just doing its thing. So it's not really changing what it's doing. But what does change is the shape of the land. So if a sharp edge emerges and then the wind is more I suppose it's penetrating in a more specific way, there's more damage done. And I think it's the same thing inside us. When our inner nature is shifting or moving, if there's a sharp edge, but what is a sharp edge? Okay, well, that's what we want to think about. I suppose a sharp edge to me is where and very often we'll start with how we react to something. So something can happen to three different people, the same event, but we can all react to that differently. What is reaction? It's generally how we think about it, how we interpret events. A lot of that's to do with our past, our personality, the way that we kind of frame things inside. To give you kind of practical example, I could think of multiple stories where I'm talking to very clever CEOs or entrepreneurs who have experienced major punches because they take major risks. And very often, they might escape some of those punches, but eventually a punch is probably going to land, especially the bigger risks they take. Now, when a punch comes in, that's where something doesn't go to plan. And for me, that's when inner dirt comes in. There's an inner dent. It hits, it's a punch. It's like a dent in a car. It stops the smoothness. Now there's actually an angle, and the erosion can start there. Maybe it's small at the start, then it can kind of grow over time if it's not addressed. Doubt can come in, self-doubt, and that's the start potentially of major erosion, and it'll grow over time. We're lucky enough to have a little holiday place in South Wicklow, a place called British Bay. It's right by the beach. And at that holiday place, we have a deck outside, a wooden deck, so wooden slats outside, and it's great. And the guy that I bought the place from, I remember looking at the deck saying, God, how old is the deck? And he said, oh, it's about 20 years old. And I couldn't get away with that. I couldn't believe what he said, because I'm thinking, I don't know much about DIY, as my wife will tell you. But what I do know is that it wouldn't be normal to have wood looking brand new after 20 years. And I said, what's your secret? Did you put some sort of special sealant down? He said, no. He said, I got a certain type of wood, first of all. And second thing was, my advice is every year, make sure you power wash every single inch of the wood of the deck. Clear away the dirt. And then you won't have any erosion. And I've kind of done that since we took it over, except for one part of the deck. I got a little bit lazy and I just kind of ignored it. And hey presto, there is some erosion starting. So if I can find a way to clear away the dirt on that deck, it seems to eliminate the erosion. And I think it's the same way with us inside, from my experience. If I can find a way to clear away the dirt that accumulates over time. Now, even to consider the fact that you have accumulated dirt over time in your life, because you've had events, you've reacted to them. Some of those events have been very painful. But what if you could actually clear away that dirt? Now, in my experience, that's possible. How do you combat erosion in the physical world? Okay, you reshape the land, you remove those edges, you repair the land, you put in blocks. In particular, down at the Murrow, they're putting in, or they'll probably have to now put in again, big rocks to protect the land and maybe move the wind in a different direction. But what are inner blocks for us? Again, just to be aware that you are and have collected inner dirt. Somebody says something that hurts you. You don't just let it pass through you most of the time. You think about it, you replay it maybe 50 times. Or maybe you have a difficult event. I'm talking about the entrepreneurs. I remember many entrepreneurs back in the crash of 08, 9, 10, went through major pain. Some lost their businesses. They can really damage your confidence, but that's a reaction inside. It's almost like if you can be clever enough to have amnesia on some of the past, in a way that allows you not to get caught up with the dirt. And even just to realize that there is potentially dirt there, sometimes you go, oh, wow, I hadn't even realized that. That might actually very often help shift the dirt. Another element is, can you let things go? Instead of stewing on things, just let them go. You have a choice. Check to see what's sticking. So it's something I do myself all the time is going through life, you're going to get punched, you're going to get kicked. Life is a full contact sport. That's going to happen. One of the habits that I had in the past that didn't help me at all, which I've had to change, is to let go and not keep holding on to stuff that was annoying me or worrying me or feeling bad about myself. And it's a question to consider. What are you holding on to? What are you holding on to from the past? It could be from 30 years ago. It could be maybe even more. So what if you woke up tomorrow and you just decided that you were going to ignore any doubtful thinking that you had, regardless of how compelling it seemed to be. Or at the very least, to realize that you have a choice. You don't have to believe it. Because the more we kind of stew on thinking, the more we kind of get into it. Actually, in a way, we're clogging up the pipes, which kind of will accelerate erosion, increases the probability of erosion happening. But again, as I say, even to realize that that's what's happening very often can actually prevent the buildup of that dirt. As I'm talking this out, I'm realizing there's probably lots and lots more I could throw in, but I think for today, I'm going to call it there. And I'll finish off by saying inner erosion is important. It does happen. And it's something, though, that can be prevented. It requires proactive protection. And what I will say, actually, just in conclusion, is that, your inner confidence is really the absence of doubt. The absence of doubt is the absence of unproductive thinking. And for me, I think even the habit, on a very simple level, if nothing I've said here is resonating, but even on a very practical level, if you just every day focus on one win and take that in, or one thing you're really grateful for every day, regardless of what happens in your day, that is a way of actually helping yourself to avoid erosion too, because working the muscle of your self-esteem, your self-concept every day does make a difference, as is important, just like lifting weights to build the strength of your body to prevent physical erosion also makes a difference. That's it. Ciao for now. Bye-bye.